I trust your week has started off well. First of all, let me start by thanking you for joining in to teach the SDGs with WeForGood. We're so excited to have you on board to teach these goals, global goals in Nigeria. We believe it will be a very fulfilling one for you as you go on to pass on very important knowledge to the younger generation. Before we go into this session, I'd just like to show you a short video by Richard Curtis, which talks about um, which speaks to the SDGs and why we shouldn't go halfway. I hope you enjoy it.
He's ahead of the field, and Usain Bolt has stopped. Usain Bolt has stopped at the 50-meter line. Oh, that is a pity. Fire. Apollo, you're on course. 226 hours to the moon orbit.
Okay, thanks, Houston. But I think we'll be heading back now.
Come again?
Yeah, it was kind of fun, but I think halfway will do. Job done.
Good night.
There's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That was a very lovely video. I hope you enjoyed it. So let's go straight into the presentation. Um, so this is with the world's largest lesson and it's delivered by me, Temitayo Ade Peters. Now this is the overview. Welcome. So I'll just like to welcome you with these lovely words by Ban Ki-moon, the former UN Secretary General, who says that volunteering fosters creativity, draws strength from our passions, and connects us to those who need us the most. The newly adopted Sustainable Development Goals offer another opportunity for individuals to show solidarity through volunteerism. And that's what you're doing. You're showing very excellent solidarity. Thank you so much once again. We just watched the video about going halfway. So a few tips for you. When you go to the schools, it's great to welcome the principals, the teachers, the students, everyone. Thank them for the opportunity to be with them, and of course, tell them what you do. Make them introduce yourself and let them know what you do and why you're there. You're from the WeForGood, a community that brings people together to act on causes they care about, and you're there to teach the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, for your icebreaker. I would suggest you tell a good story, maybe a story that aligns with the Sustainable Development Goals, or you could also consider the no point going halfway video, the one you just watched. You could show them if you have that opportunity, or just tell them about it. Then it's also great for you to tell them the 4 reasons why they need to learn about the SDGs. They need to learn about their world. They need to be active participants in the world they live in. They need to learn empathy and compassion, and of course, it helps to take action. It inspires students and even the teachers to take action. So now remember to make this session interactive by asking them questions, and also interesting by keeping it as brief as possible. Long is often equal to boring. So let's go right into understanding the sustainable development goals. So, what is sustainable development? It has to do with meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And this is a definition by Broadland Commission. Is one of it's a definition that we have come to accept as the best when it comes to defining sustainable development. So what we're saying here is that development isn't sustainable when we deplete resources and we don't allow the next generation to have their own opportunity to use the same resources. So when we talk about sustainability, we're looking at a particular equitable balance in the middle, where you have environment, you have economy, and of course you have society. That center is where you have something where there is a balance between these three elements, of environment, society, and of course the economy. And that's the kind of world that we want to live in. Now, important things to know for the students. United Nations, tell them about the United Nations, the UN member state countries, aims of the UN, Millennium Development Goals. The Millennium Development Goals were actually adopted in 2000, and they were there till 2015. That was the global ambition of the world till 2015, before the SDGs were adopted. So these were 8 goals, and they were focused on on key areas of poverty, education, child mortality, gender equality, maternal health, disease, environmental protection, and of course global partnerships. Now the MDGs achieved a number of um, things, along income, poverty, primary school enrollment, child mortality, access to water, and all of that. So why the SDGs? Like we've watched in the video, there's no point going halfway. So the SDGs are important because of their universality. First of all, the MDGs are the points where, at the time when they were operational, were sort of like for just the developing nations. But these SDGs are for everyone, all nations, all people, sectors, businesses, and everyone is challenged to act. Now, there's also the part of it being the integration part of it. So the goals are interconnected. We can't achieve some without achieving another. Once you're achieving one goal, it affects the next goal. There's also the transformation. There's a lot of transformation that will take place by our action or inaction regarding the goals. Now, why do these goals matter? Unifying they provide a unified and unifying plan of action. They will hold governments accountable. In Nigeria, for example, we have the Office of the Senior Special Assistant of the President of Sustainable Development Goals. The office you know, provides leadership, as it were, when it comes to implementation of the SDGs across the country. Now, it brings the world together, and we've already spoken about universality of it. Your participation in these goals, by teaching the children, is a great way to support this project. More about the goals. So we have 17 goals, 169 targets, and 230 indicators across the lines of people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and of course the planet. And these goals are to stimulate action over the next 15 years. Now we will say 11 years, because they actually came in 2015. So the next, now we just have, and they up until 2030. So we have just about 15 years for the achievement of the SDGs. They are also called the global goals, by the way. This puzzle, but because you may not have an opportunity to the opportunity to project, it's a great way to ask the kids about some of these words. What do they mean to them? You know, that's also part of making the class interactive. What do they mean to you? You know, what does it mean to you? What do goals mean? Equity, what does it mean? And then you can provide them good definitions, simple definitions as provided here. Now, these are also some of the key elements to make your lesson great. Clearly define the learning outcome you want to achieve. Think about how to make this lesson feel different. Consider how your students can become immediate ambassadors for the goals, and of course, try to make direct connection between the global goals and your students' lives. You know, right there and then, what are the things? How does it connect to their lives? How does it connect to your life, and then how does it connect to their life as well? You can give them those examples and let them also share with you. Now, make the lesson active and interactive. We've said that, and very closely related to making them ambassadors is about turning determination into action. So many ways, you know. So the students can pledge. You can get them to pledge to turn off the lights whenever they're not being used, not to waste food, to get involved in their communities through volunteering and other ways. So let's meet the SDGs. We have 17 goals, like we've said. The first one says no poverty, two says zero hunger, three is good health and well being, quality education, gender equality, um, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and of course, partnership for the goals. Um, so there is an analogy that I recently heard about connecting the goals together, and I'll share that with you in a minute. Now, these goals are actually a to-do list, if you will, for the planet. So now we talk about no poverty. So let me tell you a story that ties it all together. So there's a story of a man. Let's call him let's look for a name to call him. Let's call him AB. Okay, so AB was poor. That's go one. So AB was poor, and because he was poor, he was also hungry a lot of the time, and he was malnourished. And because of that, in his house also, everyone was often sick, and they didn't have great well-being. This was as a direct relationship to the fact that he didn't have quality education. But being a boy or being a guy, he still had better education than his sister, and that leads us to gender equality. And so the sister was the one who was responsible for going to fetch water, and ensuring that the house was clean in a way. And then again, because they were poor, and because the sister was the one who was the sort of like the homemaker, she was also in charge of going to fetch wood and all of that to cook. So they didn't have clean energy. They couldn't afford gas or LPG to cook, so they didn't have clean energy, and they couldn't afford that. So all they had was wood to cook. And so what then happened was AB decided to get a decent job, for his economic growth. So he went into that, and he was able to build industry, innovation, and then infrastructure. Due to that, in his community, was able to reduce the inequalities that existed. That directly translated into building sustainable cities and communities. Everyone became quite responsible with their consumption, and it also affected their production. Immediately, there was also great effect on climate action by being responsible with their consumption. It had a direct relation with climate action. and everybody became more conscious of life below water, because they knew they could fish and get a good source of protein, from fish. And they also began to be more responsible towards life on land. This immediately affected peace and justice, and of course, all of this came through partnerships between everyone. So we've tied it all together, and I think this is a beautiful story to also tell the kids. Now, goal one is very clear: end poverty in all its forms. I actually believe that students, kids have responsibility for, or they can easily play their part now in some of the goals, in a lot of the goals, And for example, when it comes to no poverty, kids can begin to learn now um, how to ensure that they don't, even if they are right now caught up in a state of poverty, as it has to do with their families. They need to start learning now that there is an opportunity, that there is a way out of poverty, and that has to do with effective training, partnerships, innovation, and all of that. We need to get kids to start thinking about that, what they can do to ensure, so it's tied, like we said, it's tied. So if they focus on their education, it has direct relation to getting them off the poverty line. So two says zero hunger, and I think here particularly we need to talk about food waste. Let children, let kids, let students know that wasting food is not only morally wrong, it's also wrong, because what you then do is that by wasting food, we have limited resources to produce food. So by wasting food, you're affecting the ability of others to actually get good food to eat. So wasting food, we need to get them to commit to not wasting food in their homes, wherever they are, to just stop it, stop wasting food. And they also have the ability, because some of them live in areas where um, there may not be people who are educated enough to know about malnutrition and all of that. So they need to be able to get involved in their communities and let people know that malnutrition is important. It's not just about eating. Eating good food is important. Eating balanced diet is important, and this affects nutrition. Good health and well-being directly related to that. Little things like washing your hands. We need to let kids know that this is important to ensure that diseases are not passed from one person to another. And so good health and well-being directly relates to the hygiene. Hygiene, and like we had already established that some of them may live in communities where maybe low-income communities and all of that, or communities where maybe slums, and there may be various aspects to it. But let them know that people just need to know these things, and even though they are children or they are kids or they are students, they have great influence on those in their community, on their families, and on other people who live within their communities. We already spoke about quality education, but we need to also under this, training is also key. It's important for young people to get to acquire skills, acquire skills that have to do with as we proceed, so for example, we talk a lot about STEM, about the technology space. Technology is advancing, and so we need more kids, more girls, more boys who will be interested in technology, so that we can move with, we can advance, especially in a nation like Nigeria, in a developing country. That's one of the ways we can actually ensure that the country develops, when we have more people in the spaces where they can innovate and provide, and yeah. So basically, we just need those important skills across board. Now there's gender equality. So gender equality, um, we need to let both the boys and the girls know that everyone is equal, really. Clean water and sanitation, I think we already spoke about that, about water, how to ensuring sanitation. Let them know that it's directly related with health is wealth, so it's directly related with their ability to even go to school. If you're sick, then you can't go to school. So kids need to ensure that, so across their communities, they need to ensure neatness, sanitation. Yes, so affordable energy. Well, here we're talking about the need to, consider renewable energy sources. Um, Kids just need to start thinking about how they can innovate and develop alternative energy, and they are not. It's not too early to start thinking about all of these things. So decent work and economic growth training is very important here. Kids need to start thinking about how to create jobs, how to reduce unemployment. Not just they can start thinking about it. It's not too early to start thinking about job creation. What can I do? How can I create jobs? How can I make the economy of the nation better? You know. So industry, innovation, infrastructure directly tied to that. Yeah. Reduced inequalities tied to it as well. I'm moving very fast because of our time. So sustainable cities and communities also, it ties into the story we had said when we talk about sustainable cities. So make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So we must engage everyone. So waste management is very key. Kids now, you have people driving past and they throw things out of their vehicle and things like that. Who is supposed to go there and pick up what you've thrown out of your car, or what you've thrown, what you've eaten, and you've thrown the trash on the road? All these things affect the ability of cities to be sustainable when you have pile of trash. And so that's why we said that all these things are tied together. So for example, when you then come into responsible consumption and production, uh, the fact that we can consider recycling ensures that we have less waste to go to the landfills. So recycling. Tell kids about recycling. There are a lot of recycling opportunities that we have. Recycling companies here and there, and if a lot of them even pay you actually for bringing your recyclable waste. They actually give you, even if it's not payment, if it's not money, some of them give you, they give you something in exchange, just to incentivize people for their recyclables. Now, there's also, on when we talk about responsible consumption, here we also talk about second-hand goods. The need to extend the life of products, extend the life of products, and not throw them away. So tell kids not to just keep their clothes. If you have clothes you don't want, don't throw them away. Pass them on to someone who may need them, and that's part of being responsible, with your consumption. Now, climate action. The climate is changing. There's a lot of things are happening when it comes to the climate. We need to so You see people putting things together and burning their waste and all of that. So these are some of the ways that kids can actually get involved in their community. Tell people, let's not burn this thing. That's why we say they are all tied together. Now, if people recycle, then you have less things to go to the landfill, and then you don't have to burn stuff. You don't have to burn your waste, and then you can give things out. So you've given things out, then you have less to burn, less to waste. So, life below water, particularly here, I want to speak about plastic. Last year, big plastic pollution was the theme for World Environment Day, and we understand that by 2050, if we're not careful, if we go at the rate at which we're using plastic, we will have more plastic in the ocean than fish. So we need to be very careful with this. We need to let kids know life below water. We need to be, how do we prevent pollution of our water, we need to protect the ecosystem. So kids have what they can do about this. So tell them about plastic. You might say you're not throwing your plastic into water, but one way or the other, when there's rain, when there's flooding, these things get into the water. And it affects everyone. They cause flooding, a lot of things that happen, and we can get kids to start understanding these things so that they can play their part in it. Now, life on land as well, life on land. So, deforestation. So now, plant trees. Tell kids about planting trees. Tell them about endangered species, and to protect biodiversity. So especially tree planting is a very awesome one for it. Tell them to have a plant, so let them cultivate the habit of planting. So you can tell them, oh, have a small pot at home where you plant stuff. So that habit is what we need to cultivate in kids. Now we talk about peace and justice here. Mm? Peace and justice. So what can kids do? Let kids know that they can speak up when they see something that is wrong, when they see a situation of violence. Let them speak up. Let them know first of all that it is wrong for anyone to stand up and be violent, to violent or whatever. So let them know. Let them also be sensitive. Teach them sensitivity. The things not to, I just believe that people, when people have compassion, I think that's part of why we're learning these goals. If we can pass on that spirit of compassion onto children, then we can reduce violence. And but let kids know that they can actually speak up. Let them know that they can speak up when they see things that are wrong, so that we can have just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. And of course, we have the partnerships for the goals. We must make sure that we meet these goals by 2030. We all need to come together. Everyone needs to come together. Let them know that you're volunteering to teach them the SDGs. And this is also why you're doing this, because you know that you need to come. Everyone needs to put their hands on deck. Get all hands on deck to ensure that we achieve the goals, that we revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. And that's been the 17 goals. So what can they do? Think about it, talk about it, dream about it, write about it, make art about it, act on it. So there are so many things that kids can do. You can ask them here what are their ideas for what they can do about the goals, and let them know what's that the lazy person's guide. Even if you want to just be on your couch, what can you do to support the sustainable development goals, the achievement of the sustainable development goals, starting with Nigeria. So thank you so much. Questions here. If you have questions, you can put them on the YouTube channel, um, and we will see. We'll ensure we answer your questions. Now, so these are the frequently asked questions. Um, I'll just leave this. You can look at them, and it can also help you to answer the questions that you may have. Yes. So why are they called both the global goals, sustainable development? That's just questions, frequently asked questions that a number of people have asked in the past, and all of these have been put together for you to be able to answer questions. So these are the references, and of course, if you need to contact us in any way, you can reach out to us. WeForGood International. We are sustainable development consultants, and this has been me, Temita Edibitas. I want to thank you once again for taking out time to watch this video, and especially for taking out time to volunteer for the SDGs. Thank you once again, and God bless you.